Welcome back, Wolfpack. Vrelis here, and today we are looking at fairy types. So this is my new series called Type Talk, where I just discuss what the fairy type, or the type I am discussing, means to me, and how it impacts the Pokemon meta. So when we're talking about fairy Pokemon, it's one of those things that when it was first announced, kind of people didn't know what was going on. It's like, okay, fairy type introduced. Why is this? Pokemon says it's to kind of counteract all the dragon type Pokemon in the meta. And then there was kind of a weird moment of, what is Pokemon trying to do to the meta? Like, do they sincerely feel that dragon types are too strong and need something to stop them? I personally did not feel that. I had never had a problem with dragons. Generally, that's where my strengths came from in Pokemon battling, was kind of playing around all the dragons you're expecting and doing well based off of that. So when you think that they're trying to introduce a new kind of strategy to work against dragons to just help lower their power, it was a really interesting decision I was trying to figure out. So as more information came out about fairy types, it started to sound a lot better. Dark is now a bit more susceptible because it had very few weaknesses, like only 2 weaknesses that not many people would really use on a team against one, and then it just started getting more and more balanced. So when Pokemon decided to make a new type, they did it right. When you're looking at the characteristics of the fairy type Pokemon, it's Dragon Control. It's a support type Pokemon, and they have just good overall base stats and damage. So they made it to where fairy types would be very usable. They wanted to make it to where fairy types would be able to fit into the meta, be played quite a bit, and then just overall be a very strong type. Therefore, now what is strong against fairy becomes strong as well, thus allowing meta diversity. So when you look at it, fairy type is weak against steel and poison. Now, when you look at this, like, why steel and poison? What could possibly make a fairy weak to steel? Maybe poison is understandable, but what is this? If anything, though, it was done just to make those types more viable. People are using steel moves more than ever on Pokemon. If you kind of have that 4th slot, that could have been any other move, but now you're looking more for the steel, more for the poison type moves. That way you can just kind of be like, okay, that's what we're looking for. That makes sense now because those moves are usable, those Pokemon are a bit more usable. Also, fire types. Since fairy is very common, it is very good against fire types. Fire types are very good against it because fairy is weak against fire. Or, like, the move is not very effective. Fire type is neutral effective back onto fairies, but it does give fire types a bit more options since they are fairly limited in the strength of their Pokemon pool. Then, just overall, with everything else coming together, it was done very well. Fairies are strong, the Pokemon are incredibly usable, and there's ways to kind of work around them, as well as make them just good against a lot of other things. So it just kind of, it stirred up the meta, made more things more useful, made it to where you're going to be seeing things different. You're going to be seeing a lot more diversity. Other things that weren't as common are going to be a bit more common, and dragon types, they really haven't gotten hurt by it, but it's still nice to have, like, a fairy aspect against dragons. You know, even though dragon is ineffective against fairy types, they can still bring, you know, ground type moves, flying type moves, other kind of stab based moves that are still very strong overall, but it does make it to where they can't use like a signature KO move or just spam outrage like they used to, which really does spice things up. So now let's go and look at a little more into the characteristics. So Dragon Control, we just discussed that. Support Pokemon. Now if you think of a fairy type, it's not like a monstrous dragon. It's not like a sturdy rock. It's not like a furious fire type. It sounds very like benevolent. It sounds like there's going to be supporting to it, and generally the Pokemon in the fairy types are. Whimsicott, Prankster, support. Klefki, Prankster, that's a support Pokemon. Then you also have Pokemon like Clefable, Togekiss, which have generally been used as like damage sponges, just trying to keep everything nice and balanced out. But there is some good damage in the fairy types as well. You do have Sylveon, Gardevoir, Mega Mawile for one, and Azumarill, Slurpuff. All Pokemon like that do balance out damage. So fairy does have great diversity, really well-rounded stats, and overall just a strong type. So, without any further ado, let's drop into the top 10 fairy-type Pokemon. Not wasting any time with number 10, Mega Gardevoir. I don't feel Mega Gardevoir is that strong of a Mega. As a Pokemon itself, it's incredibly strong because that's what Mega types or Mega evolutions do. But when you're only allowed one Mega evolution, you have to make it count. And I feel Mega Gardevoir doesn't make it count. Especially because with other fairy types like Mega Mawile, Mega Gardevoir is heavily outclassed. So, Mega Gardevoir, not the strongest Pokemon, while still having good stats, good damage. Also, just feels like it's very susceptible to getting 1-2 hit KO before being able to do the same back. Number 9, Whimsicott. Whimsicott is now a fairy-type Pokemon and used to be a terror back in 5th Gen because it was your go-to prankster. Prankster Tailwind, and it also had Taunt, so it's like the anti-prankster Pokemon. Very good Pokemon. Only number 9 just because the rest of the list has so many strong Pokemon. Still a very, very useful Pokemon indeed, though. So now we have Carbink at number 8. Carbink, I have so much faith in Carbink. The stats are there. Huge tank stats. Great ability to set up. You know, you have Skill Swap Skill Swap Sturdy. Nothing has that kind of combo in one turn. You also have the ability to go with dual screens. You have a very consistent Trick Room starter or setup Pokemon, and then, or you can just make him stat up for himself. Calm Mind, very great for special walling out of Pokemon. Also has Psych Up if you want to soak up some stats, and just ways to really work overall. Number 7, Sylveon. I feel Sylveon is pretty much like Mega Gardevoir. Good Pokemon, can do very strong, but overall just does not have the stats, falls short where it needs to, and unfortunately it doesn't make it the most usable Pokemon, I feel. But even though people are still using Sylveon to great amounts, I just feel the consistency isn't where it needs to be. Number 6, Azumarill. Azumarill has huge power, huge hit point and defensive stats, so you're able to just go Belly Drum into Sweep. If it's slower than you, which is not too many Pokemon, but if a really slow Pokemon comes out, Play Rough is going to just obliterate it. If it's a faster Pokemon, you can still use Aqua Jet. Stab Boost with that huge power into the Belly Drum, you're going to be getting some massive amounts of damage with that Stab Aqua Jet. But the reason why it's only number 6 is because number 5, Slurpuff. I feel Slurpuff does a better job than Azumarill in that it has the Unburden ability. So you Belly Drum, you consume your Citrus Berry, you get back up to 75% health. Now you still have good health bulk, good defenses, that strong attack. It's not as strong as Azumarill's, but your speed is really, really high from Unburden. Unburden doubles your speed if you consume your items, so now you have a Stab Play Rough that's going to outspeed most any Pokemon and just obliterate them. Number 4, Clefable. I have been talking about Clefable for a long time because it is like one of the most strong tanks out there in the game. Cosmic Power. You can use that as many times as you want. Get your defenses huge. Clefable also has great hit points. Now that it's a normal fairy type, you don't have to worry about getting hit by any kind of fighting moves, which is very good to have. It does open up the other weaknesses with the Poison and Steel, but Poison as a status doesn't affect it because of its ability, and it just has so many things going for it. Its ability makes it to where you can't like Toxic it down, you can't burn it down, you just have to face it head on, and then you're met with a wall of defenses, Wish, or Soft Boiled, depending on how you want to handle that situation, and just Toxic, Stored Power, Seismic Toss. It can do a lot of things and just be a true tank. Number 3, Togekiss. Togekiss is one of the strongest Pokemon in the game. Always will be for me, just because of that Pair Flinch combo or the Scarf Flinch combo. Serene Grace, Air Slash, 60% chance to flinch. Going to devastate just people left and right. And it also has some good stats. You can make it as a tank and make it a really strong support Pokemon. Paraflinch. You paralyze the target, you use Air Slash on them, you're going to be faster, you're going to have huge defenses and health stats, you have Roost, and you have other coverage moves as well, and you can give them a Leftovers, so that's a Pokemon that's not going to go down, and then just really cause tons of disruption to your opponent. Number 2, Mega Mawile. One of the strongest Pokemon in the game, hands down. If you get any stat boosts into him, from like a Swords Dance that it can use, it has enough defensive bulk to where it can be a 2-hit KO Pokemon, which means you can use a Swords Dance. Sucker Punch after that really knocks out any Pokemon with that huge power. You can also use Iron Head against other fairies, and just has great coverage overall. You can also like Baton Pass Swords Dance into it, Baton Pass like a speed boost into it. Now, that's a Pokemon that's going to be incredibly feared and just almost unstoppable. But number 1 is Klefki. Klefki, for what it is, a prankster Pokemon that can just destroy anything. A lot of other prankster Pokemon can't fight for themselves. Klefki can. You have Thunder Wave, Swagger, Foul Play. That combo right there is enough to devastate any Pokemon. It is a bit of luck whether or not the confusion hits itself or you're able to get off the Foul Play, but Klefki has some good defensive stats, generally a 2 to 3 hit KO against some of the strongest Pokemon in the game, and can really make opponents suffer. Just throw down a wall of statuses. It's also a really good support Pokemon for Light Screen Reflect, and with that prankster, it can use Iron Defense, double its defenses before the opponent can make a move, and turn into a sweeper on its own with that Calm Mind. So I hope you guys enjoyed the video. Top Fairy-type Pokemon, Fairy-type talk, meta discussion, and all sorts of goodies in between. Hope you guys enjoyed the video, and I hope you all, as always, have a nice day.